Hello?
Hello.
How's it going, buddy?
Doing great. How about you?
It's going really good. I noticed the last time, like last week, people complained that my mic audio was like ridiculously loud. So I played around with the settings and hopefully it's a more manageable volume.
The volume is definitely lower, maybe a little bit
Oh,
too much so. It's also a little bit on
or,
the buzzy side, like there's a background noise.
let me see what I can do
It's
about
always
that.
something, right?
It is always something. How about this? Is this better?
Let me say something.
Something.
Oh, that sounds better. Yeah, you got rid of whatever
All
that
right.
fuzzy background noise was.
All right, sweet. So anyway, I mean, you know that I DM'd you over the Discord because I saw that short clip that somebody took of one of your streams where a young lady pretending to be, a fascist or national socialist came on and sort of trolled you a little bit or tried to. And then, you made these, made some comments about the way women were treated in National Socialist Germany. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you today, because I don't think that you're correct in what you think regarding the way at least I view women and everybody who is associated with me, the way they view women, and the way historically, at least in the Third Reich, that women were the sort of life that they led in the Third Reich. I don't think that you're totally correct, and I think that it was a bit sensationalist to say that they were broodmares and that their only purpose in life was to provide children for the state. So that's what I wanted to talk about first and foremost, if that's cool.
Yeah, we can get right into that. So yeah, that person ended up being disingenuous, which is fine. That's what
Yeah,
happens when you
yeah.
bring people on from chat. But yeah. So I mean, I looked this up before, and then I did
Mhm,
it again before talking to you now, just this morning.
mhm,
And yeah, as far as I can tell, the predominant role of women in Nazi Germany was seen to be as child rearers who would raise children for the good of the state. They were provided up to secondary education, like high school, but after
mhm.
that, they were generally disallowed from participating in political processes, and they were generally encouraged, either explicitly or implicitly, to just be like good mothers. That's what I was saying to the woman who came on stream, is
Mhm.
not particularly feminist.
All right, that's fair. You're right. It's not particularly feminist, but I do think that I like to jokingly describe National Socialism as one of the most truthfully feminist movements. It's a half joke, half serious. I mean, we're in favor of what is it? Destigmatizing, I guess, would be the terminology used. Destigmatizing breastfeeding in public. That should be totally allowed. I
Sure.
remember, what was it? The whole Gamergate issue with the depiction of women. I think that most National Socialists today are against the exploitation of women's bodies, especially for advertisement, especially the monetization of women's bodies to sell products. We're against all that
Well,
too.
sure,
So
but
I
that's
yeah.
not because of respect for women. That's more about an opposition to what you perceive to be degeneracy.
No, absolutely not. I think that it has more to do with respect for women. I mean, I don't think that it's particularly of good social hygiene to mass produce advertisement campaigns that exploit the female body.
What
But
does that mean, social hygiene?
well, I think that there are things in society that could be considered of healthy and unhealthy. I think that if you walk down, I don't know, you've probably never been. You ever been to Vancouver? You're in Seattle, so
Have not been
it's
to
just a
Vancouver, no.
well, there are a couple of streets in Vancouver that I would describe as socially unhygienic. One of those being East Hastings Street, where you can watch people shooting heroin in broad daylight,
Mhm.
and I would say that that's terrible social hygiene. So extrapolate from that.
So,
I don't,
well,
I
you
don't
just mean things that are bad for society.
bad for society, of course.
Is
Yes,
nudity bad for society, or like sexual
I,
content?
I think that for the most part, yeah, sexual content would be bad for at least public society. I don't think that it has any real place. And it depends on the nudity. I would never protest the an unveiling of Michelangelo's David. I'd never protest any artistic expression of the human form. But I mean,
What about
there's
like
a
WAP? You know, WAP.
I don't know what I've heard that expression, but I don't know what it means,
The
and I
wet
have a
ass
feeling
push, the dancers like bouncing their butts around and stuff. I mean,
I
that's
don't
art,
think
isn't it?
that I don't think it's called for, really. I don't think
It's
that it's.
an artistic depiction of nudity.
Well, no.
Yeah, it's art. It's incredibly
Well,
popular art.
yeah, but I don't. I would hasten not to call it art.
Why? It's
Uh,
music. It's garnered the interest of millions world round. It required a
well,
tremendous amount of artistic talent to produce the music video, the actual song, the talent in the dancing.
I would disagree, but you're welcome to view that way. That's your prerogative to view it as art or not. I don't personally view it as artistic.
But how? Why not? I mean, what makes it not? Isn't dance artistic? Music's artistic. I
Well,
mean, the
dance
visual
can certainly,
choreography.
yeah, dance and music are certainly artistic, but a ternary rhythm with four chords over top of it, mass produced, through a studio, and just shaking your fat around in front of a camera. I wouldn't call it art,
I
but
mean,
if
it
you
took
want.
well, hold on. We're doing the meme again. I mean, it took months to produce that music video, and it absolutely involved, no doubt, dozens of artists, from set design and costume design to choreography to the actual musicians. There's a science to making pop music. It does sound samey. I'm not
Yeah,
going to deny that, but that's been the case for art for centuries. Even I mean, Mozart was considered to be like low class music. Baroque music was considered like the daldry music of the peasant masses when it first came out. It wasn't considered, lofty intellectual, brain food until centuries
I
afterwards.
I don't think that that's necessarily true about the Baroque movement, because at that point in time, most people, there wasn't you couldn't go to a cafe and hear music over speakers, obviously, because there were no speakers. Music was an experience back then. I studied classical and Baroque period when I was studying. My aunt's concert pianist, a composer, and I studied under her in my youth. And in all my study of both periods, classical and Baroque, I wouldn't say that it was peasant,
Yeah, well, I mean,
peasant muck.
when I say peasant, I'm being a little hyperbolic. But yeah,
Oh, okay, hyperbolic.
if you've studied like the Baroque era, then you would know that there were periods of time and artists that music that is considered today to be high art was actually considered to be low art. And that trend shifts with time as well.
For
Shakespeare, for
sure.
example, was not really considered high art back in his day. His plays are filled with lowbrow jokes. They
For
were
sure. For sure.
miraculously funny to people of all social statuses. Nowadays, if you go to see Shakespeare in a theater, you're probably, I don't know, you're probably some adrenochrome sniffing member of the British royal family. The social relationship
I
to these types of art
resemble
changes.
that remark, sir.
Well, it's true, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, because I resemble that remark.
Well, so yeah, so WAP is art. So you said you're okay
Okay,
with
well,
artistic depictions of.
I've never seen whatever it is you're talking about, so I'm not gonna make comments about it. But from my understanding, I won't deny that there are certain elements of, I guess it's called, what is it they call it now? Mumble rap?
Not for WAP. I think it's just like pop music, right? I think
Oh,
mumble is like Tentacion, right? I don't know much. I don't know much about mumble
I
rap.
don't know very much about any of that stuff. I don't listen to it or consume it, so I don't have any real context or frame of reference to make a statement about it. But I would say that there are certain things which elevate the status of the human body, and there are certain things which denigrate the status of the human body. And I would say that in modernity, in a subjectivist sort of relativistic society, one can take away from those sorts of things what one wants to take away from them. But if a society, and I don't know how much you've read of philosophy, but Heidegger once made a remark, that faith is the anchoring point by which means the human soul orients itself and gains perspective. So,
Heidegger was a
well,
bitter and miserable incel, so we maybe shouldn't take advice on happiness from him.
well, he might be a bitter, miserable existentialist and a materialist, but I don't know if he was an incel. I won't speak to.
It's
But at any rate, at any rate, I think that there are certain, when you live in a society like we live in, where things are relativistic and you can take away from things what you personally want to, without without broader context or without shaping an opinion within a moral framework or a framework of values or virtues or whatever, with the things that used to unify societies only 100 years ago and at every point prior,
Wait,
then sure.
at what point of all people in America had the same moral framework?
Well, there's room in between, but at most points in human history, people were united around either the religion of the community or the beliefs of the community, what their neighbors believed, they believed, people, Protestantism,
We had
Catholicism, etc.
slavery. I mean, we had a civil
Right.
rights movement and a suffrage movement. There was clearly some
But
social
you, but
unrest.
you, but the only point I'm trying to make about WAP is what it's called, is that you're free to take away what you want from it. I also don't, well, I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to really make a definitive comment as to whether it's art or not. I'm going to assume it's not, or that I won't like it, but
Well, wait, hold on.
after we're done here, I'll watch it.
But you just jumped between those two things. You not liking it and something not being art are two completely different things. There are
No, I think that there's an objective standard by which art can be measured.
how?
What do you mean how?
How do you
I mean,
objectively measure art?
well, if you like, because because art is a representation of form, and form is
Well,
objective.
wait, hold on. So art is not a representation of form. Art is what we consider to be art. Art can be anything. I mean,
No,
that
no,
was the
art
whole.
is a representation of
What do
form.
you mean by representation of form?
If you're going to paint a flower, you have to capture the form and essence of a flower. If you're going to write a poem about the ocean, you have to capture the form and essence of the ocean.
So-
You're describing like art. You like art isn't something that just falls out of the sky magically.
No, we create it.
Art, yeah, we create it, but it has to have some frame of reference to reality, or
Why?
else it's just because then nobody's going to know what it is.
Yeah, you can. And
No,
also,
you
what?
can
So
you
wait,
can
the
you can
abstracting here.
treat.
I feel like we're engaging in like juvenile philosophizing here. So art is derivative of form, and form is objective. I don't know what that means. We know empirically what the world looks like because we can see it and measure it with our eyes and ears and nose and hands. We know
Right,
that,
exactly.
but art doesn't have to be a direct reflection of things that we see in the real world. In fact, very rarely is it. All those statues that you were referring to before, the from Greek and Roman antiquity,
Mm.
those were done of historical and mythological figures, probably people who never actually existed. Certainly, if we're talking
No,
about
for sure,
Zeus,
but
then we're talking.
they're the idealization of they're the quintessential idealization of human form.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they were. Well,
What-
that's
What's
what
an
you just
ideal
said. They were
human form?
mythological form.
Then why were
We,
different
we
gods
flatten it.
portrayed in different ways? Do all
It
of them have the ideal but different bodies, or are there multiple ideal bodies?
well, it depends on what god you're talking about.
So wait, does the ideal body change with the recipient of that body, the owner of that
Well,
body?
it depends on how it depends on how you parse and conceptualize what these gods were. Whether you believe that in some sort of esoteric objectivism, or if you believe that they were metaphors, then the form that they take and are conceptualized by the minds of man are representative of the thing that of what they are. Like Zeus is the chieftain of the gods, right? Would obviously represent a certain archetypal form,
Why?
and
He was
well,
just a
because
dad. What if he had a dad bod by Greek standards, you know? What if Persephone or Eurydice were actually the height of what they considered to be the beauty standard, and representations of them were as such?
but they weren't.
How do you
Because
know?
well, because I'm assuming that you are of the opinion that these sorts of mythologies are the projections of mankind's desires and dreams and views and ideals, and not
They're stories we tell to explain the
like,
world.
that's what you think, right? So why would they tell stories about why would they anthropomorphize these mythological figures in a way that doesn't reflect their view? Like, why would they
You
create a
realize the Greeks didn't think their gods were perfect, right? These weren't
no, I am
Christians.
aware
They
of it,
thought
but
their gods were a bunch of capricious, incestuous assholes who
that
raped and
doesn't have
murdered their way
anything to do
across.
with well, that doesn't have anything to do with the way that they anthropomorphize them and the way that uh, uh,
Yeah, but
canonized them, and
how does
the way that they were
what makes a body
represented.
ideal?
I think that you know the answer to that,
No, I don't.
and
Wait,
I
no, wait, this is exactly what I mean. Falling back on intuition is a child's argument. That doesn't
no,
hold
I'm
up in
not. Well,
art
I don't
critique.
want to be. I don't want to be rude to you because you don't have the ideal. You're
Do you want to get
fat.
on cam, buddy? I'll go gut to gut with you. We can touch tips.
That's gross.
Well,
But
I'd have to say,
you know what the ideal body
wait, are you
is.
saying you have an ideal body? Wait, if you do, I do want you to get on cam, okay? I mean,
Well, I don't.
waist
I
up, we can
don't.
show you one.
I don't have a camera. I don't have a webcam. I've got a headset.
But you do have the ideal body.
I don't think that I do. No,
Well, then
but
why can't we talk about this as slovenly, disgusting, degenerate wastes of skin as we are?
well, we can as much as you want, but that's kind of tangential to the point being made right now. You said that there is no ideal, and I think that there is one. I don't
How
have
would you
it.
arrive at knowing what an ideal is? Different societies have considered different things beautiful throughout time. There are societies that have considered tattoos all over your body to be the apex of human beauty, an art form that stretches across the physical body that you inhabit. There are societies that think the opposite. There are societies that have thought very well of pale people or dark skinned people, societies that have thought well of the fat, and societies that think well of the skinny. It tends to change
For
even
sure.
within societies based on the material circumstances of the time.
And I'm not
Wealth.
denying that. I'm not denying that,
Then
but
what's the ideal body?
well, what circumstances are we living in? And then I can tell you, we're not obviously not living in post scarcity, but we're also not living in famine.
So you're
We're not
saying,
going to idolize fat people like they did in the Elizabethan era
so wait,
because we
you're
have the means.
you're saying the ideal body then is something which is determined subjectively by the relative circumstances of the society you live in.
I wouldn't call that subjective. I would say that that's very objective.
Wait, but if it varies depending on the society that you're
Just
from,
because something varies doesn't mean that it suddenly becomes subjective.
wouldn't so it's
You're
objectively determined by subjective beauty standards.
But they're not subjective. They're a reaction to circumstances.
Then
It's
how
not
then
it's
which
not
set of
it's not it's not a feeling. It's not your own personal feeling. It's a response to whatever fits or meets the criteria of the world around you.
so is there one ideal body right now on Earth? Not like a physical one, but is there one ideal of the body or are there multiple? Because there are different societies with different ideas on this sort of thing right now.
There would obviously be multiple. There would obviously be different standards for different people, but that doesn't make it subjective. It's still objective. Just because there are differences among different human groups doesn't mean that they magically it becomes a subjective viewpoint.
Sure, but it's not just varying between different human cultures, it's also individuals within those cultures. So would you say then that there are ideal bodies, but the ideal body is objectively determined by individuals' tastes and preferences?
No, I would say that the ideal body is objectively determined by whichever circumstances a group currently operates
How
within.
large of a group, though? Like, how big of a group does it have to be?
I don't think I think that that's largely by the by.
Well, the reason I'm asking
I
that is
don't.
because in America today, we have about 330 million people, and we have changing sets of beauty standards. I mean, the ideal woman 70 years ago is very different to what the ideal woman is today. You probably have a different idea as to what the ideal woman looks like than, say, for example, a black guy who grows up in Los Angeles. There are probably different, like, social pressures that are, shifting what you imagine to be the perfect body. So now there are tens of millions of black people in America. Is that group large enough then for their beauty standard to be objective?
For them, sure. Because their beauty standards are also based around their physiology, their biology, the way that they've been conditioned over generations to view one
Nobody's
another and
biology determines.
well, yes, it really it does. Primary and secondary sexual characteristics are hard coded into your genetics,
We're not.
and man,
Nothing about race has anything to do with your primary or
I'm
secondary
not.
sexual.
Well, I wasn't bringing. You brought up race, not me. I was. You asked me why black people in
For me,
America would
wait.
have
For me,
different
race is
standards.
cultural. When I think of race,
Well,
genetics don't even enter my mind.
that's your prerogative. But you brought up black people and their sexual preferences,
Yeah,
and
but
I'm telling you my view on that. And my view revolves around the idea that black people over generations have been conditioned through social, uh, ecological, and environmental circumstances to favor a specific body type and a
What body
specific.
type?
I'm not black, so I don't know
But black
what
men
they like.
prefer white women. I think there have been studies on dating sites that black men tend to prefer white
Well,
women.
everybody prefers white women,
No, that's not true.
except
There are
for
other parts of the
Asians.
world where they certainly don't.
Except for Asians. Well, I've seen those studies.
Yeah,
Everybody
so it's
prefers
not true.
white women except for Asian men.
Wait, in America?
Well, that's the only statistics that are
Yeah, in
available.
America, but
Okay,
in other
yeah,
parts of the world. I mean, I think
well,
that people
I
tend
don't have those statistics, and I don't think you do either.
I
So
could pull them up with a little bit of time. Generally speaking, people
probably
seem to idealize the body types that are presented most in the media of the country that they live in. So if you live in America, the majority of the modeling media you're going to see of women is going to be of white women. If you live in parts of Africa or
no.
Asia or whatever, then that differs because there are different, types of bodies and representations that you'll see in media.
Well, I would disagree with you on white women being the primary female form that you see in Western media. I disagree
I'm
greatly.
pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that's objectively provable. Wait, you think that
I
white people aren't the majority of like fashion and modeling media in the West?
I don't think so. Well, they're certainly not the ones most prolific or most
Is this
publicized. I can
because you
tell you that.
browse Poll and you look at like
I don't
interracial
use I don't
advertisements
use
while hate jerking it?
I
Okay.
d- I don't use 4chan. I don't like that.
Nah, but like
It's
the
not.
only I'm sorry, wait, I have to be real. The only person who would believe that white people aren't overrepresented in Western media are the kinds of people who don't consume much media and browse forums where people rage post interracial advertisements and then talk about how like society is being destroyed by them or something like that.
Well, I can tell you that I don't consume a whole lot of media, but what I do see on the television when it happens to be on, I don't see an awful lot of white people, least of all white women, unless they're paired
How?
with.
What?
Well, I guess it's Canada versus America. Maybe you. Well, I know that you have a lot of Jews in your media, and they appear to be white.
Oh, I guess you have a lot of Jews in yours if you're seeing a lot of interracial relationships in your media too, huh?
As a matter of fact,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
yeah,
will.
yeah. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. We're not running down this road. First of
Well,
off,
you I
well, wait,
well,
wait,
I
no, you did
I'm
bring it up. Thank you.
I
First
did
of all,
bring it up.
Jews can be
I'll
white. Let's not be silly.
No, they're
Jews can be
not. They
white.
don't they don't call themselves white
Yes, they
unless
do.
they call themselves white when they wanna advocate on
No,
behalf
wait,
of
hold,
white
stop,
people,
stop,
and
stop, stop,
as soon
stop.
as
If
they
we're
wanna
going
advocate
full
on
on
their
down the
own
JQ thing,
behalf
wait, hold on.
as soon as
Wait,
they wanna advocate on their own behalf, they
hold
switch back to
on.
being Jewish.
Chill. Wait, hold on. That's because they're two different things that you can connect. Like you can be white and Christian, and you can be a white person, and then you can also be a Christian. You can be white and you can also be Jewish. This isn't hard to understand.
You
Jewish
can't
is a religion and ethnicity and a broader cultural archetype. It can mean a lot of things to a
So
lot of
when
different
you
people.
when you call people a white supremacist, you're not condemning them for being racist. You're just condemning them for being culturalists.
No, I'm condemning them for being racist. What?
But you
Jewish
just
isn't a
said that,
race.
yes, it is a race.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You
No,
can.
it's absolutely not.
It absolutely
There
is.
are
It
Jewish
absolutely
ethnic groups. Wait, hold no, no,
40
wait, stop. Wait, I can't let you just make stuff
40%.
up. There are Jewish
I'm not
ethnic
making stuff
groups.
up.
There are not Jewish races. Nobody
You
uses
can
race
twist.
to refer to Jewish people.
You can twist definitions all you want.
It's
You can
not
call them
twisting
an it
definitions.
is. It is. You can call them an ethnicity, you can call them a race, you can call them a culture, you can call them a religion. The fact of the matter is 40% of European Jews can be traced back to 4 different women.
That's
They are
wait,
and
that's what an ethnicity is. You realize that, right? You realize that ethnicities refer to like a common cultural or national or geological
or genetic.
yeah, or genetic. It's an ethnic group.
So
A lot
then
of the Jews
race
came from the Middle
then
East.
the way
We have
you
like Hasidic Jews and
the
stuff. They do the
the
whole thing.
way
Or
the way
Ashkenazi Jews.
the way you use the term ethnicity seems like a synonym then for race, or at least in
Wait, you
part and
realize there are
parcel.
white ethnicities, right?
Yeah,
Like
of course there are white
hundreds of them.
ethnicities. Yes,
It,
of course there are white
there are
ethnicities.
white communities in America, like for example, the Amish, where you
What
can
do you
trace
think
back their wait, hold on, where you can trace their lineage back with incredible reliability to
for
very
sure?
small family structures. But they're
Yeah,
still
for sure
racially white. Nobody says otherwise. They're just a different ethnic
well,
group.
What do you think I mean by the word race? Why
I
don't you
think you
tell me
mean
what you...
whatever's most convenient for your agenda.
No. I want you to tell me what you think I mean when I say the word
That
race.
was my
Because you
answer. I
see,
don't think you have a consistent set of beliefs about any of this. I think you're just kind of
well,
hateful and you justify it post hoc.
that's not true. That's absolutely not true. My
That's my
definition of
impression.
I well, that's your prerogative as well. But my definition of race is in and of itself very similar to your definition of
So
ethnicity.
your definition of race is any genetic cluster.
Any genetic cluster,
How many
yes.
white races are there then?
Primary?
What is
How many primary or in general? Because primarily there are in Europe there are 6. Outside of Europe, a, a fair few. All the way up until about or in and around the Saudi Arabia is the cutoff point. About halfway through Afghanistan is the cutoff point. So anything in and around the Levant, anything in and around the Mediterranean, anything in and around those regions, North Africa, there are a number of a good number, but in Europe there are 6 primary European races. All of them, I guess, an American such as yourself would call the white race. I don't really
I've
think
never
that
heard any of this before. This is
well,
completely and you might as well
you've
be
never
explaining like the Elder Protocols of Zion to me. Like there are 67 council members
you've
of the
never heard of the Dinarics, you've never heard of Eastern Alpines, West
No, because none
Baltic,
of this
the
is
Slavic race.
biologically or
Oh, it
sociologically relevant.
absolutely it absolutely is.
Well,
When
wait, wait.
you can
So
accurately determine a person in relation to other people with a DNA test. When my wife can take a DNA test and her DNA is 85% similar to the East Austrians, but and
you,
substantially more different from East
yeah,
Austrians than it is
I'm
from
not I'm
Ukrainians.
not disagreeing
There's
with
this
the idea of genetic
clustered,
differentiation. Wait, hold on. I'm not
yeah,
disagreeing with
clustered
the idea
genetic.
of genetic testing, okay? That's not what I'm
That's fine.
disagreeing
That's
with.
But then you can
Biologists
accurately determine who a person is
but
based off of
we're
their
not
DNA.
that's not what we're talking about. We're Mott and Baileying here a little bit, okay?
No, not
Biologists
really, because you have to have some frame of reference to say this is the group you belong to.
Usually biologists when they're doing that use geographic references in order to nail down people's ancestry. Biologists when they're talking about human genetics do not refer to race. They use clines because clines are way more biologically descriptive of the way human beings differ from one another. And sociologically what you're saying isn't relevant, and I know that because I'm a sociology major. So what we're really talking about here is an abstract form of classification that seems to be beneficial to you because it in some way allows you to further specify the racial divisions you're obsessed with. Now, that may well be the case that there are different European groups we consider white that come from different areas and you can genetically trace them to X or Y, and I don't disagree with that. I'm sure that's the case. But I don't think that really speaks at all to the fact that Jewish people they can be white. There are non-white Jews, of course. You can see plenty of them in Israel being treated very poorly by the government. But there are white Jews as well, which is one of the reasons, by the way, why the Nazis online have to do those stupid like JQ posts where they put the Israeli flag next to like a bunch of white people. It's because unless you put those flags there, nobody would know. They line up a bunch of CEOs and politicians. They're like, they're a Jew, they're a Jew, they're... But if you weren't throwing those flags there, nobody would know. They would just call them white guys. And they are white guys. They're also Jewish.
I think that first and foremost, Jews don't like being called white. I've never met a Jew, and maybe you have met Jews who just love being called white. I've never met a Jew that enjoys being mistaken for a goyim.
How
They
often do you...
don't.
Wait,
I've
hold
met
on.
plenty of
Goyim
Jews
just
on the
means
internet.
non-Jew. You can be white and a
Goyim
Jew.
means cattle. Goyim means cattle, and they don't like being mistaken for a non.
Goyim means non-Jew.
It
And
means cattle.
that is the only way in which people use it. Okay, I grew up around Jews. Nobody is
I
running
believe
around
that.
cackling and holding their hands together and talking about how they're
I
going to destroy the
believe you
Goyim.
grew up
Okay?
around Jews.
All right. So Goyim means non-Jew. If you're a
Which
white
I'm sure
Jew,
they told you that.
wait, hold on. If you're a white Jew, then you're not a Goyim because you're a
They
white
don't
Jew.
like being called white. I've never met a Jew that likes being
I don't
called
believe
white.
you've met any Jews.
Well, that's your prerogative.
There
Why
are
would I
white
lie
Jews.
about that?
Wait,
They don't like being
hold
called
on.
white.
Oh wait, I'm getting gaslit here, okay? Because the Nazi meme is that Jews will call themselves white whenever it's advantageous to them politically. That's the whole Nazi meme. That whenever Jews don't want to be like disguised as like a wealthy group but not be called out in it for being Jewish, they call themselves white. The Nazi meme is that Jews do like being called white and they're in disguise. So you're saying now that their whiteness is determined by how much they want to be a part of that group, but they don't disguise. Are they disguising or not? Like, what are what are Jewish people to you if not white?
Jews are a Semitic race from the Middle East. They're Semites.
What about people who convert to Judaism?
Well, then they're not Jews. They're just religious.
They are Jews. The
But
majority of the people who you'll see on those big JQ posts are not like direct descendants of the line all the way back to Moses or whatever. Most of them, through hundreds of years of conversion and family bonding and really complicated stuff, are genetically about as Jewish as I am. But they still
I
call
believe
themselves
that.
Jews because they're Jewish.
That's getting clipped,
Why?
as Jewish as you are.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
Jewish. Well, not genetically,
that's
at
not
least.
going to get clipped.
Of course, I'm hiding my secret religious conversion for the right moment, waiting for those.
Well, at any rate, I think you did agree that Jews were at least an ethnic group in your terminology,
There are
and when
ethnic
I say
Jewish groups, but there are
there are, yeah,
non-ethnic Jews who are still Jewish religiously.
but they're not racially Jewish.
They're not ethnically Jewish in the sense that they descend from any of the 11 tribes or whatever, but they're still Jewish.
They're religious converts. They're not racially Jewish.
They could have been religious converts 10 generations ago. Those
Uh,
tribes are thousands of years old.
10 generations isn't going to magically make your genetic composition flip-flop from what you are to what you wish you were.
We're not talking about genetic composition. We're just talking
Well,
about whether
we
or not
are
a
when
person's a Jew.
we're talking about whether or not Jews are a race slash ethnicity,
If
and if they are a race slash ethnicity, then they have genetic markers which would differentiate them, which they do. A
they
DNA test can confirm whether or not you're Ashkenazi or whether you're Sephardic.
they do. If you
Exactly.
wait,
Yeah.
if you genetic
So there
test.
are ethnic Jews. We agree that
Wait,
there are ethnic Jews.
yes, but if you
Okay.
wait, hold on. So first of all, having a portion of your genetics traced back to the tribes or whatever does not mean that you can't be white. I mean, you can be 1/8 black and be considered white if you're 1/8 like from those tribes and you're 7/8 European white, then people would call you white. Additionally, there are tons of Jewish people around today who don't have any genetic connection whatsoever to those tribes and are just
Okay.
Jewish because culturally they're raised by Jewish families. I mean,
All right, let me take this angle with you then. If Jews can be white and white people are all racist
I
and
didn't
these
say
Jews
that.
well, a lot of people like you think that racism stems from white people and that the existence of white people at all perpetuates white supremacy. There are a lot of people who think that.
No.
There are people who think that.
There are
Maybe you're not one of them.
no, I really
I'm not
don't think
I'm not
I really don't think the majority of people are
I didn't
like.
say majority. I said
Okay,
a
then
lot
why
of
are we
people.
talking about some tiny fragment of a population here?
Well,
who-
there are people who think that. Okay, let me. If Jews are white and you believe Jews can be white,
do I think
how
Jews
is
can
it?
be
Why is
racist?
it? No, the question is when white people are accused of white supremacy by some people, maybe not yourself, by virtue of merely existing, that they perpetuate white supremacy. Is it anti-Semitic or is it anti-fascist to equate Jews with white people?
Wait,
I'm having a my brain isn't keeping up with that because when I say things about the
you can
Jews, whether
tell.
they're white or not, I get called an anti-Semite. I don't get called anti-white. I get called anti-Semitic.
Okay,
No matter who the Jew is.
I
I
have
don't get
never
called
seen a
anti-white.
person get called anti-Semitic for calling a white Jew racist against non-white people. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen that happen.
What about Jews who are racist against white people?
There are what do you mean by racist against white people? And also,
Well,
what race is the Jewish person?
The Jewish mayor of Oakland just initiated a sort of UBI experiment, giving out $500 to impoverished colored folk.
Good, based.
Yeah, but there's also 10,000 impoverished white families who will specifically not be seeing a single fucking penny out of that.
Damn. Well,
Is
it's a
that
shame that there are
is that
socioeconomic
Jew
problems that
racist?
explicitly affect people of color.
But isn't it your whole shtick that things like this should be equalized?
I
That
generally
race
think so.
doesn't exist?
I think means testing it along race is generally a a recipe for causing social unrest, mainly because it makes people like you ass mad and you people vote more reliably than people like me. So I do think that generally it's important to be careful about that sort of thing. But I agree with
So
the
would you
sentiment.
say, but would you say that it's wrong to single out white people who, by the way, white people earning under $12,600 below the poverty line, where the colored people or people of color were qualifying for this sort of UBI sort of
If you're
poverty
asking me if I think
program,
affirmative action
made
programs are anti-white racism, I
56,000
don't
or
believe so.
under. Well, this one is. This one is. This one's targeting people of colored families earning under $56,000 a year, and they're getting a free,
Wait,
no strings
what
attached
does this
check for
have to do with
five.
Jewish people again? Are you asking
Because
me
well,
whether
because
it's
the mayor.
okay?
No, do you have? It's okay. Just slow down, and I will tell you again.
Okay.
You're talking because you said that Jews were white people, and I asked you,
So
wait, well,
wait,
every
some
time
Jews
I
are white. White Jews are white. There are black Jewish
every
people.
time I say anything about the Jews, I'm not anti-white, I'm anti-Semitic. I've never been called anti-white by anybody.
Because
I've been called anti-Semitic by a lot of people. But
wait,
if
hold, wait,
Jews are
wait,
just
hold,
white
wait.
people,
I
if
actually
I'm
can't.
just
Wait, hold
attacking
on.
white people,
Wait, hold on. I actually can't tell if you're incapable of understanding this. Okay.
oh, please
So
explain it to
the
me,
reason
Vosh.
you're not called anti-white is because you're anti-Semitic. That's the
Well,
reason
no,
why.
I'm
No,
against
wait, hold
I'm
on, hold on,
against
hold
these
on. Wait,
people.
wait, hold on. We need to break apart a couple of one-to-one like
Vosh,
conversions.
get
Wait,
get
in
your
your brain
weighted
right
blanket
now,
and
there's
your
like a
therapy
tiny
lizard.
monkey who
It's
set down his pair of
okay.
cymbals and they're working on a
Vosh,
conveyor belt. I need to help you, okay?
get get your weighted blanket and your therapy lizard.
I need
It's
to help you,
okay.
okay? Hey, I have
No, you
multiple
don't.
therapy lizards, thank you. And we were having a
I
wonderful discussion on New Caledonian geckos last time we talked, and I don't want you to besmirch that with petty bullshit talk right now. Listen,
Okay, well then
okay?
get your weighted blanket. It's gonna be okay.
So hold on. Some Jewish people are white, some are
Yes.
not. You can
By your
tell
yeah, by
because
your standards,
race is generally determinable by looking at a person because that's usually all it is, skin deep. Now, there are plenty of Jewish people who are white and plenty who are not, and there's a lot of variance and blurred lines there, but I think that a lot of the Jewish people in
well,
America, by any right, are white. So when
okay,
we're
well,
talking about, hold on. So
get me on my
wait,
side.
please. So so the thing was with you is that you, being a Nazi, don't like Jewish people, so you have been criticized for being anti-Semitic. But you do not hate white people, so you have not been criticized for being anti-white. It would be like, you know how the majority of gamers are white? Probably, I'm guessing here. And if you're an anti-gamer, people won't call you anti-white for being anti-gamer, even though a lot of gamers are white. They'll call you a gamerphobe, which is what you are. So just because they're impugning you for disliking a characteristic associated with another does not mean that they're impugning you for every characteristic that you could associate with a person,
Okay, Vosh. Okay. Let's run with that premise.
If
So
you're
when
asking me if Jews can be racist, then the answer is obviously
Vosh,
yes. Any group of people can be racist.
so but when Jews are racist specifically towards white people, are they self-hating whites or are they racist Jews? Which is it?
There are white people who are Jewish who are self-hating whites. Yes, that is a thing. But I don't think this affirmative action program is indicative of self-hatred, so I don't know if this example is necessarily or not
So,
affirmative action. This
I would
stipping.
put money down that it's not based on self-hatred. I would say that it was based on
Because they're
hatred.
Jewish and trying to hate white people. Yes, I know how it works in your brain. So anyway, it's a false premise because you're never going to agree with the concept that Jewish people can be white. So there's not really much of a point of discussing this, but like a, you can have a white Jewish person who self-hates because they're white. That's a thing. I don't think self-hating whites are as common as people like you like to make them out to be, but I mean, it's a
I don't
thing.
think they are either. I don't make them out to be anything. I think that there are Jews in positions of power orchestrating policies and programs that negatively affect white people in
How?
America and Canada.
Where? Yeah, you know what? Let's go down this road. Yeah, let's do it. JQ debate. Hit me with it. Pill
Hit
me.
you with what? I came on to talk about women. I don't want to get arrested. I'm using my real name.
Does
I want to talk about women. I can't.
wait, does Canada arrest people for being Nazis? I thought that was just Germany.
No, no, no. It's getting pretty bad here.
So there's no chance of you being arrested, is what I'm hearing.
No. People have been dragged in front of the Human Rights Tribunal.
Dragged
Uh,
and then acquitted because you have
no,
free speech laws.
no. Travis Patrone was thrown in jail for making a quote unquote anti-Semitic comment. So
Hold on. Travis
yeah,
Patron, Canada Human Rights Tribunal. These human rights
arrested.
tribunals are an interesting Canadian Nationalist Party leader charged with willful promotion of hate after alleged anti-Semitic video posted on YouTube. Canadian. Wait, aren't you a part of the Canadian Nationalist Party, or is this a different?
No, no, absolutely not. I was the founder of the National Socialist Canadian Labour Revival Party. Travis stole a lot of my ideas, funny enough, and now he's in jail. So how'd that work out?
Damn. Well, not inclined to make his mistakes.
No, I'm not an idiot.
You know, Jews really aren't your enemy. Have you ever talked to a Jewish person? I find that they're basically as self-absorbed and dumb as any other person on earth is. They're just trying to get
Absolutely,
by.
absolutely. But they also operate within their own group self-interest, generally speaking.
But most of their
Generally,
group self-interest is white.
no, it isn't. Most of their group self-interest is the advancement of the either the Israeli lobby or
But the majority of
foreign
Jews in
policy.
America vote Democrat. Republicans are the ones who aggressively promote like pro-Zionist policies. I mean,
Well,
Democrats do it to an extent too, but Republicans are a lot more gung-ho about it.
that may be true, but I can't really remember off the top of my head what Hillary Clinton's position on Syria was, but I think it was a lot more aggressive than Trump's was. I'm not sure, but then I don't remember what Mitt Romney's position on Syria or the Golan Heights oh, Tom Gordy.
I mean, American
I don't
politicians care about Israel because it's a military base that we can exploit to promote an imperialist agenda in that region of the
It's
world.
the only democracy in the Middle East and our greatest ally. And if you're not willing to serve, you can move to Russia, buddy.
Yeah, they'll say whatever. It's a military
Yeah,
base that they want to defend.
it's
Yeah, they want to
retarded.
defend. Wait, hold on. Wait. They want to defend. People attach so many weird narratives to this, but the explanation is incredibly simple. Israel is a
Yeah.
military base for the United States. We have an ungodly investment in maintaining some sort of political hegemony in that part of the world. The reason AIPAC has control over the American electorate to the extent that it does is because Israelis know, or sorry, not Israelis, but Zionists both in America and in Israel both know that if America gets progressive enough, they're going to become more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, and our military involvement in Israel is going to decline. AIPAC is a lobbying group designed to make sure that the American government stays on track for supporting Israel, which is mutually beneficial both to American war hawks
Oh,
and to
what
Israeli Zionists.
maybe to American Warhawk, sure, but how does it benefit Americans in general? How does it benefit the American people? What benefit is there to Americans in general that every couple of years, every decade or so, there's a new war in the Middle East over
Doesn't. We
border?
don't defend that.
Yeah, exactly. And yet, it seems to me the Zionist lobby benefits greatly from wars in the Middle East.
Yeah,
And
no
further,
shit, because wars in the
at
Middle
some
East means more military support for Israel. If you want to
exactly.
fix that, all you have to do is vote out politicians who want to get rid of this stuff. You know who does want to support the Palestinian people? Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If you're actually looking for politicians who will support Palestinian rights and end the forever wars in the Middle East, you're going to want to look towards socialists. My end.
Yeah, I don't deny that. I don't deny that whatsoever. It's the other things that come part and parcel with modern day socialists that I wouldn't want.
Well, I mean,
Ju-
there's a benefit. Bernie Sanders is one of the most aggressive advocates for Palestinian rights, and he's also
Yeah,
like the most Jewish guy in the Senate, as far as I
a
know.
broken clock is right twice a day, and that's great. I wouldn't vote for those people on a single issue.
But the point is, there's not really an association, like in a conspiratorial way, with any of these
Right. No, I
motives.
don't think I didn't. I've never made the claim that there was. I'm purely against Israel receiving massive amounts of tax dollars to bolster their society at the expense of the West.
Yeah.
That's all
Well,
I'm against.
okay.
I
Well,
don't
yeah,
want
but
them
that's a
getting any money.
Warhawk thing. This isn't the first time
Yeah,
that
I
America
agree with
has
you.
done this, by the way.
I agree with you. I'm
America
not
has invested
disagreeing with you.
trillions abroad in other military bases, both now
Yeah,
and in the past, to
yeah,
maintain military hegemony, especially during the Cold War. This thing
yeah.
with Israel right now is exceptional in that it's happening now. But in the total, like for example, we also had a huge military base in Japan, and we used our military presence in Japan to affect political influence across the Pacific region during the Cold War. Does that mean that like America is being controlled by like the Japanese lobby, like they're pulling the strings? No, it was just a military base that we used until we no longer had a use for it. We pulled out, and now, I mean, Japan's doing its own thing, I guess.
Right. When do you think that America is going to pull out of Israel? Or
Well, we
rather,
would
when do you
probably.
think Israel's going to pull out of America? Ha! Oh, wordplay.
So there are a couple of things that could lead to us removing ourselves from Israel. The first thing that would be necessary would be the depoliticization of evangelical Christianity. Another one of the reasons why we have a base in Israel is because it's essentially a Christian conspiracy theory that the Jews need to hold their homeland in order for the rapture to come. So there are Christians in America who want Israel to be held specifically because they want the
Right,
Jews to be acted as sacrificial pawns so Jesus can rapture us all up to heaven. Well,
right.
you all up to heaven. I would be going to hell, of course. So we need to
I
make sure
don't
those
think
people have no
I
political
don't
power.
think I don't think the Christian God really appreciates me all too much. I think we'd go going to hell in the same handbasket, you and I.
Well,
I
then
mean, probably not.
Christians are your biggest
That's
political obstacle then, not Jewish
Yeah,
people.
I don't think I don't disagree with you there, but I don't think that it's one or the other. They can both be my political enemies.
Well, if it's both of them are your political enemies, we're not talking about like 1% of the world's population that's Jewish. We're now talking about a political system that spans about a third of the world's population. And at this
Yeah,
point, the Jewish question becomes kind of irrelevant, doesn't it? At that point, we're not really talking about Jewish people. We're just talking about power structures of people who have different interests than us. This is a Marxist way of looking at the world, that at the end of the day, people act in ways which are beneficial to their class, political, or social interests, and that the proletariat, of which I am, I guess, very loosely a member, I don't know about you, need to advocate for their own interests by securing political power. In our case, our foreign aid to Israel system is generally beneficial to war hawks and military and religious extremists. So we
right.
want to remove that. But this doesn't have to do a JQ thing. We don't have to, like it doesn't have to be a weird conspiracy theory about anti-white Jews infiltrating every level of our government. It's just very simple political theater.
For sure. And I've made that argument myself many times. I still think that Jews are highly overrepresented in many of the major institutions and in media, in entertainment, in law, in higher education. I think they are vastly overrepresented. And I think that the general, I wouldn't say ubiquitous, but at least general consensus among within their narrative is wholly or at least substantially anti-Western, um, anti-national, anti-white.
Sounds pretty
I
based. So
I
I won't.
I don't think that it is very based because
So
I think that when you get to the point, you see, I think that what happens with people like you and with the people who inform your political theory, it's all well and good and it's all well and fine to invert the system and
but I love white people.
make the problems of the underprivileged, underrepresented minority. Let's overrepresent them now, and we'll just flip the wheel of fortune around. And now, who was at the top is now at the. But then
But
you've
I love
only.
white people.
But I don't believe you.
So a couple of points. Do you think that overrepresentation in a given field means that there's some kind of conspiracy or some sort of in-group bias going on?
Not necessarily, but sometimes yes.
Okay. Because the greatest overrepresentation in America and in the West broadly would be of white people in basically every system of power. Whether we're talking Jewish whites or non-Jewish whites, white
Whites
people
belong.
are. e-
Whites belong in power in the West.
So hold on. We're going to have to see. That's the thing right there. This is one of the reasons why talking with you guys is very circular. It's because you pretend to have some sort of moral opposition to the
No,
way
I
in which.
have a
Wait, hold on,
moral
hold on, hold on. Wait, please, please. So,
words in my mouth, and I
wait.
want to clarify before you do.
Okay, clarify. Go for it.
I don't have any moral opposition to whatever it is you think I have a moral opposition to. I have a moral opposition to people who don't belong in this region of the world who came here as guests.
That's
who are
begging the...
well.
Wait, you mean white people in America? Wait, you realize we've only been here for like 400 years, right?
You said the West in general, which includes Europe.
Well, I live in America. Like, we are the very much guests in this continent, you know. Definitely...
Won by conquest. It was won by conquest.
Oh, won by... Wait, so which types of conquest are legit and which types aren't? Wait, hold on. Before you answer that... Wait, before you answer that question. So this is what I mean, okay? What Nazis do is they complain about unfairness, but anytime things are unfair in their favor, it's justified. So why... Wait, hold on. So why is it okay...
No.
Wait, let me finish the point. Well, let me finish the point. Come on. So anytime, so when it's Jewish people who are overrepresented, that's because they don't belong there. It's an overrepresentation. There's in-group bias. But when white people are overrepresented, yeah, this is our rightful land. This is our territory that we deserve to rule over. Anytime immigrants come over to America, hey, whoa, this is our territory, man. Come on, this is our country. But when Americans come and bull over Native Americans, wow, well, we won it by conquest. At the end of the day, your philosophy is might makes right. So it bothers me when you pretend otherwise, okay? If some stronger group, if China came over here and stomped all over America, you would have no right to complain because all you care about is the stronger one winning.
I'm not pretending otherwise. The Native American, the Indian fought back. Nobody's fighting back right now. If we fought back and lost, we'd have to accept that.
The Native Americans fought back because we were killing them. Immigrants in America aren't killing people who live here already.
I think crime statistics would disagree with you.
No, they wouldn't. Immigrants commit less crime than Native Americans. Native is in like the people who already live here, non-immigrant Americans.
Yeah, the whatever the fuck you call them in your census data, the Mexicans hopping the border are committing way more crimes than white people.
You're looking at the wrong data, my dude. They're not. They're objectively not. They're not.
They objectively are.
No, they're not. Immigrants commit less crime. Why would an undocumented immigrant come here and commit crime and increase the likelihood of them getting deported back to their country?
Because they can't legally get a job. They don't have a social security number.
Then they work under the table.
When they can't.
They often can.
Well, they often can, but sometimes they can't. Sometimes they turn to dealing drugs or doing other things.
You realize that... Wait, hold on. You realize that dealing drugs usually requires some kind of community infrastructure that they don't have because they just came here and usually don't speak the language.
Getting involved in gang activity inevitably leads to violence, and a lot of them do.
There isn't an strong association between immigration and gang activity. Gang activity usually comes from people who have lived for generations in projects in America.
Unfortunately, the crime statistics don't seem to agree with your point.
Wait, hold on. I know the right answer here. I have data on this. I'm fully familiar with all of these arguments.
Non-whites commit more crime than whites.
Wait, we're not talking about non-whites and whites. We're talking about immigrants and non-immigrants.
All non-whites are immigrants. None of them belong in the West.
Hold on. Okay, so by your definition, you meant that you're a fucking idiot. No, immigrant means immigrant, my dude. And black slaves have been here longer than the vast majority of white people have. They got brought over first off, okay? Most of the white people in America today are descendants of the Germans who came here from the 1800s or from the many, many, many immigration waves that came after. They're the immigrants. Black people were some of the first ones here, excluding the Native Americans, of course. You don't have any special right to this country, okay? Like, at all.
I don't claim to have any special right to America.
You just said that Westerners have that white people have a right to this country. This is what I mean. It's impossible to talk about this with you guys because you just make up definitions on the spot.
I didn't say that, though. You're putting words in my mouth.
I am not. You absolutely said that.
No, I said that white people are entitled to the West. Whether your
What does that mean, but you deserve it?
Europe, North America belong to Europeans.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they belong to whoever lives there.
Europe belongs to Europeans. And the only way that...
Europe is mostly made up of democracies. Democracies enfranchise people who live there. Europe is whoever the groups of people in there are. I don't give a fuck if Europe in 100 years is filled with Arabs and Africans, okay? Europe is a continent. All I care about is humans. Blackpill me, my man. Why should I care about white people above every other group?
Because you're one of them, I presume.
I'm a socialist and an ally of the working class. That's what I care about.
Signaling isn't going to protect you.
Dude, you're the one who's virtue signaling, screaming about how you need to defend white people.
I'm not virtue signaling. Nobody considers this virtue signaling.
I'm tearing up over here with the cringe.
I'm not gonna get a whole bunch of fucking upvotes on Twitter for
I'm
saying
cringing at your virtue signaling right
live in
now.
their fucking own countries. I'm not gonna get upvotes on Twitter, and I'm not gonna get 12,000 people watching me
All
on a
Nazis
stream
do is
saying what I'm
virtue
saying.
signal with their like return to tradition, like meme posts and stuff about how like women were better off and Nazi. Like that's all Nazis do. Because you have no real political power, you virtue signal.
You don't have any real political power either yet.
Not yet. We're getting there, okay? So wait, why should I
Yeah,
care?
and
Why can't
the day you get it,
I live
there
in
will be
America?
trouble.
I live in America. Why can't people just come live here? I benefit from immigration massively. Everyone here does. Almost
How do you
everyone.
how do you benefit from immigration?
Immigration increases the labor pool, which is an economic resource that we can use to increase the standard of living for Americans.
Why can't you just have more children?
You can go convince people to have more children then. They're not, because industrial societies all around the world lead to a decrease in native birth rates. Every country around the world, not just white countries, every country around the world, when it industrializes, lowers the native birth rate every time. It's just the way the economy works. It's complicated.
Yeah, and that's something that needs to be resolved.
That's the way industrial society works. Unless you want to return to tradition and go live out in the forest like monkey people. But if you do that, you no longer have the economic productivity to support a high population.
Gosh, you should be agreeing with me on this point, because my point is that if industrialization leads to lower birth rates, then there needs to be measures put in place to sustain a population in accordance to its growth.
Yeah, immigration sustains our population.
No, I thought that you were a socialist, not a capitalist.
Wait, hold on. Immigrants are generally members of the working class. I want them to come here so they can work in solidarity with the people of my country.
Do you want them to work in solidarity, or do you want them to advance your GDP so that you can go in fucking dick pose on the world stage? What is it?
Socialist countries also want to have a robust economy, you know. I mean, we don't all want to like just live and bang rocks together. Immigrants come in, they make the economy better.
I'm not saying that we want to bang rocks together. Don't mischaracterize.
Then we all benefit from a stronger economy, whether you're a socialist or a capitalist. Now, I take issue with the way the means of production are currently owned and operated, but whether or not I own them or anyone else owned them or the government owned them, I still want the economy to be strong. I still want people here to be economically prosperous.
The economy can be strong without expanding beyond your means to sustain yourself.
We're not expanding beyond our means. Our country has a very low population density.
If you're not expanding beyond your means to sustain your economy, then why do you need to import people to do that for? Why do you need to import people to prop your economy up?
What's wrong with importing people? That's a part of global economy.
But you just said that you're not expanding beyond your means. If you're not expanding beyond your means,
we just had record low unemployment under Trump before COVID. How are we expanding beyond our means? Then our economy has room to grow. We just need more people. Our country has a very low population density. 330 million for a country the size of like China.
Why is the solution? The question is, why is the solution to just import people from other countries?
Why don't they want to come here? We're not importing them. They come here willingly. Why not?
It doesn't work best.
Yeah, it does. I love them here.
You love them there, but it doesn't work best. Why is it better to bring in people from the third world than to raise up your own children?
What do you mean raise up your own children? Go convince white people to have more babies, have fun. In every industrialized society on Earth, the same pattern has taken place. It's a fact of the world. Our economy means less children being produced domestically. That's just how the world works.
If the economy means that there are more or less children being produced annually because of industrialization, then it seems to me that there's a flaw in industrialization, that there are no longer motives or opportunities for people to perpetuate their families, to create large families, to work the machines being built in the first place. Maybe these are things that need to be rectified. Maybe there's a flaw in the system.
So we have two options we can go down. We can deindustrialize, thereby making ourselves the least developed country on the planet.
I didn't say deindustrialize.
Or we can import people or have people immigrate, which works and has no problems.
I asked you before you called not to put words in my mouth. I didn't say deindustrialize. I said fix the flaw in the system.
What flaw is causing people to not have kids?
I would say that the biggest barrier to having children is a lack of economic mobility, more so than the industrialization of manufacture.
Sure. So you want to improve economic mobility. That's going to require a lot of tax money.
Or it's going to require a lot of tax money, or it's going to require de-inflating the currency by getting rid of the private banking industries.
Okay, all right, wait. We're not going down that kooky road. Okay, I don't even have data on
Are
that.
you are you well, go find some. Go read Gottfried Feder's manifesto on the abolition of debt slavery. It's fine. I'll wait.
It's not about debt slavery. The debt
Well,
economy is something that I
it is
generally oppose. The idea
well,
that
I oppose it
that
good.
people will have more children if we get rid of that, I don't think that necessarily correlates. I mean, we're
Inflation
talking about a
leads to
pattern
poverty.
established in every country on earth here.
Inflation leads to poverty, leads to
But the
an
inflation rate
impaired
has been historically low. It's been like 1.8% averaged over the past 10 years.
and still $20 100 years ago would have gotten you a whole lot more than $20 today.
That is how inflation works everywhere on
Exactly.
earth.
Exactly. And you can rectify that problem and you can bring
You
value
want
back to the currency.
deflation?
I would love to deflate the
Wait,
currency.
why would anyone invest in the economy if there was deflation? You could just hold it in a bank and make more money than you could by spending it. Deflation would stall the economy, and nobody
No,
would be able to afford children.
no, it wouldn't stall the economy. That's bullshit.
No, it is. If deflation takes place, then your money is worth more every single year. What that means is that you could just save it in a bank and it would be worth more relative to the cost of goods next year. There'd be no incentive to spend money because holding on to it would be a guaranteed investment.
There
That's
would
why
be
you
you
want to prevent deflation. It's a
have to
bad thing.
manage That's why you have to manage the system and carefully cultivate it. You need a state which is endowed through the treasury to value the currency and to set the interest rates on the currency. You need to bring back state banking. You need to get rid of the private banking or the private banking enterprises. You need to get rid of the Federal Reserve and return the power of money back to the government who can regulate it properly. And over X number of years, 5, 10, 15, whatever, arbitrary numbers, through programs to eliminate the excess until you're left with a sustainable product. And in my country, we don't have a Fort Knox full of gold, and some conspiracy theories say you don't either, but you probably do. We don't have gold to base our currency on. So the solution I believe in is social credit and adopting the foot pound per hour per annum to value currency based off of the average hourly productive rate. That 1 unit of currency equals 1 hour of productivity. That's my solution: social credit and adopting the foot pound system. That's
Okay,
how I would fix it.
so I feel like I would need a PhD in economics to fully break that down, but instead of doing all that crazy shit, what if we just let people enter our country and, like, fix the problem anyway?
Because in 20 years, you won't have a country that belongs to you anymore, and you'll
Wait,
lose complete control of the political
the
and
country
social
doesn't
destiny.
already belong to me. I'm one citizen among 330 million. It doesn't belong to
Yeah,
me.
and 50 years ago, that 300 million people, or what, 280 or 175 or whatever it was 50 years ago, 50 years ago, that group of people were largely the same
What group?
and
I'm me.
largely
I'm the me. I wasn't alive back then. I'm alive today. I'm always going to have one vote in this country, whether I'm 18 years old or 80.
right. And immigrants are largely going to vote for matters that represent their interests.
So,
It
good.
happens here in well, it happened well, then
God bless them.
those interests often conflict with the interests of the people who were already here. The native citizen, yourself in America, myself here in
They're
Canada.
citizens. They come in here, they get a right to vote. That's the rule.
And that's a flaw in the system when you're bringing in people who are going to control the political and social
They're not
destiny
controlling
of
it. They're
your own.
contributing to a democracy. You know, you have to live here for years to be a citizen. It's not like they just fly in here, drop a vote every 4
Tertiary,
years, and then fly out. They have to be citizens to vote. I mean,
tertiary to the issue. The fact of the matter is, at least here in Canada, there is a serious problem with Asian immigrants largely supporting policies and programs which further and advance the interests of the Asian immigrant. They want looser
and
regulations on who, because then you
that's their
lose
right.
control. But then you lose control of the parliament, and you lose
I don't
control
have
of
control of the parliament.
your
Neither do
people.
you.
Your people lose control of their
Who's
government,
my people?
and you become a vassal state to a foreign
No,
nation.
you do. Wait, hold on. If they're citizens of your nation, they're not a foreign nation. They're your
They're,
nation.
they are well.
Oh
Depends on
no, the American government has been taken control of by Americans.
but they're not Americans.
Yeah, they
They
are. If they're
tried
American citizens, they're
a
Americans.
magical piece of paper. Let's not get into that because it's such a ridiculously easy argument to debunk.
I'm sorry, is American a race? No, it's a
No,
nationality.
An American
If
is a
you're here and
nationality.
you have citizenship, you're an American. Simple as that. Melting pot, baby.
The magical piece of paper argument is so easy to debunk. I don't want to waste my time. I want to
Wait,
talk about
I'm
something.
only an American citizen because of a magical piece of paper. My
No,
birth
you are
certificate and
you.
social security number are the reasons why I'm an American citizen. My
No,
passport is the reason why I can travel abroad. That's how bureaucracy works.
you inherited your nationality as a birthright. These people coming in did not.
Yeah, that's
And the
called
only thing that
naturalization, and it's been a process for hundreds of years.
the only thing that legitimizes them as citizens is that there's consensus reached on the validity of that magic piece
The
of
thing
paper.
that legitimizes them as citizens
No,
is the same legal process that legitimizes me, a
no,
centuries-old process of naturalization.
no. What legitimizes them as citizens is that there's a consensus and agreement that the piece of paper in their pocket is legitimate and that
That's
society
the same with
agrees to
me. I could
recognize.
renounce my American citizenship. You
No,
realize
because
that, right?
you have a blood right
No, I
to.
don't. Wait,
I'm
hold on. Wait, hold on. You need to. You're so confused right now. Citizenship
not.
is literally a contract between an individual and the state. I could revoke my citizenship. There is nothing genetic about citizenship. Literally nothing. The naturalization process goes back hundreds of years.
Well, then
It is a contractual. It is a magic piece of paper.
maybe your country is fundamentally broken in some way. Then
I mean, we're the strongest country on Earth, and the only reason we haven't invaded you guys is because we don't want to deal with 8 quadrillion miles of frozen tundra. So, no, I think our country's doing just fine, and I think our naturalization process is one of the best parts of it.
well, that's your prerogative to think that. I think
Why
that as
shouldn't
soon
I?
as
That's how democracies work.
because as soon as if consensus shifts on the legitimacy of these immigrants,
They would have to
they're
amend the
only
Constitution.
no, they don't need to amend the Constitution. They don't need to do anything. Because as soon as as soon as everybody agrees that they're no longer legitimate, it doesn't matter what the government says. The government is just an abstract concept that represents the collective will of the people.
Americans have thought that immigrants are illegitimate for centuries, and you know what? They all became citizens anyway. People today are way less racist than they were 100 years ago, but you know what? These people became citizens anyway. Unfortunately for you, racism is not stronger than the naturalization process. It hasn't been for centuries, and it's not going to be tomorrow. And as long as I have any say in this matter, I have no idea why we should forego a perfectly legitimate, decent, democratic immigration process in favor of some asinine, deflationary economic policy. For what? Why? Immigrants commit less crime. They contribute to the economy. They diversify our culture, which is one of the only reasons why America has anything worthwhile to speak of. Huh?
Why? Well, no. Well, yeah, that is exactly right. The only reason America has anything worthwhile to speak of is because
of
Americans,
immigrants.
in and of themselves, are unimaginative social parasites who are fucking subject to any form of normalization. You have no. You are, as a people, a living refutation of the Cartesian axiom. I think, therefore I am. You don't think, yet you are,
okay?
and America exists. Yes, no, you're right. You do need diversity because without it, you would be nothing.
America is the strongest cultural force in the world. We are the sun around which you all orbit. American television, movies, comics, and music circle the world around faster than I can make a phone call. We are clearly culturally relevant. And a lot of our cultural relevance comes from the diversity that we see in our country, whether it's white or, I guess, white American performers who borrow cultural elements from immigrants or from other cultures, or whether it's the fact that 98% of everything worthwhile in this country artistically came from black people, whether it comes from immigrants themselves who came here and gave their own take on the American story. American culture benefits from their existence.
I don't think that you'll find a single European who will agree with you that their culture is significantly impacted by the American culture. I don't think you'll find very many Chinese. No, they wouldn't be fools. I don't think that very many Europeans look very favorably on American culture. A culture of McDonald's and blue jeans isn't exactly award-winning outside of America.
Hollywood, where our movies are watched the world around, are industries in music, where from Nashville, people hear about us the world around. Our television shows, which have a unprecedentedly large translation business base beneath them, because everyone the world around wants to watch Breaking Bad. We are culturally relevant, and McDonald's is all over Europe anyway. If that's the measure of American culture, we already won. We won decades ago. Immigration benefits our culture. If
Yes,
Europeans could keep up
I
with
do,
that, maybe they'd be better
I
off for it.
I do believe that you have won by normalizing, standardizing, and making ubiquitous the lowest common denominator of filth. Yes,
Ah.
you have given
So we've
Europe
gone from
McDonald's.
culturally irrelevant to actually I don't like the culture. Well, I'll tell you, I don't like much of American culture either.
You
But
don't have culture.
the
You have a
good
bunch
stuff in
of
America mostly came from immigration. Or at the very least from non-whites, I think.
nobody here in Canada watches American. Well, I'm sure there are some American television programs, but for the most part, we have Canadian television. In Europe, in England, they have Channel 4, they've got the BBC, they have their own programs, and sometimes they run American programming. In Germany,
I
they
have too
have
many
their own
international friends. I'm sorry. I know you're full of shit right now. People the
well,
world
that's
over
fine.
watch our
That's
shit.
fine.
I know you're
That's fine.
lying right now. You
People, yeah,
if
I'm
we were
not
doing
saying
this offline, maybe, but like no, everyone knows Europeans. God, our music. America practically invented. America is the source of like God half of all listened to music around the world. I swear to God. Whether you're talking blues, jazz, country, hip hop, rap music, it all comes from America. We are sick as hell. Rock and roll we stole from black people, so that was fun, I guess. Um, we're really influential in those respects, and it's because of cultural diversity. We did it because we have all these cool people with different stories and different perceptions in our country. Countries are only made weaker if everyone is just some droned automaton, waiting in line to go get their government stipend, The
well,
American dream, baby.
you beat me, Vosh. You beat me with your American supremacism.
It's not about supremacism. It's just that diversity and cultural variety makes this country stronger. You
I
last debate
disagree.
kept
I
saying
disagree that it
when
makes your
they
country
take over,
stronger.
they'll kill you, but you never told me. I still want to know. Give it 50 years, whites will be a minority in this country. So what?
Absolutely. Well, what happens to the what? This is what I was trying to say earlier before this whole conversation about culture, which I still disagree with. I don't think it's made you stronger, but I can talk about that when I answer your question. What happens when you've inverted the wheel of fortune? You haven't taken it off. You haven't taken it off its axis. You haven't taken it off. You haven't dismantled the machine.
We don't want to
You've
flip the system.
but that's in effect what's going to happen, and that
No, it's not.
appears to be that it. Well, that's what it looks like to me,
I'm
Vosh. When I
sure
see
it
things,
does, but it's not going to
well,
happen. White
well,
people aren't going to be
you
made
say it's
slaves.
not gonna. You say it. I don't think they're going to be made slaves, but I think they're going to be made second-class citizens in
Why?
the
Who
homeland that
benefits
belongs.
from that?
I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know who benefits from a lot of things that people on your side believe in.
Equality?
Well,
I benefit from equality.
no, people who are fundamentally disadvantaged in. Well, maybe yeah. I guess you do. My bad.
Well, I do care about equality. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I believe you do. I believe you
freedom is
believe.
actually the number one tenet, though. That's the Marxian axiom right there.
What is your view of freedom?
I think it's a
Do
wonderful
you
thing.
believe no, do you believe freedom is liberty from constraints, or do you believe freedom is the ability to do the right thing without being compelled to do the wrong things? Without being
Freedom,
told what to do, or do you believe that freedom is the ability to do whatever you want, or do you believe freedom is the ability to be the liberty from compulsion, to be
freedom.
forced to do something. No, that's not an answer. Saying freedom. I'm asking you
Well, I know I'm
specifically.
trying to answer, but then you keep freedom maximized is when you try to expand to the greatest possible extent what people can do while also minimizing to the greatest possible extent the ability for humans to impose coercion, implicit force, or restrictions on another. So, for example, making murder illegal in a technical sense reduces freedom because now if you do a thing that was previously allowed, you can be arrested. But it actually increases freedom in a practical sense because now everyone in that society is free from the threat of murder, or at the very least, they're more free than they were before.
Okay, so you believe in freedom as liberty from coercion, basically.
The freedom to do what you will and
So
the
freedom from
destruction
constraint,
of incentives to do what one must.
freedom from constraints, or freedom from compulsion. Which is it? I
I
just
think they're both components. Because if you go for the libertarian definition of freedom, there are two types of freedom, I mean, positive and negative. If you go by the libertarian definition, then it's like, no laws, everyone do whatever you want. By the way, it's legal for somebody to set up an oligarchical kingdom company and rule you like a slave, you know? It's not enough to just allow people to do whatever they want. Because if you
Right.
allow people to do whatever they want, they have the ability to hurt or constrain others. I want people to be able to do whatever they want as long as they aren't constraining or hurting others. Now, what you're going to say here is, do you support the freedom for people to freely associate? That is to say, people of a given ethnic or racial group to form their own communities. And the answer to that is no, because what you're not actually doing is you're not actually freely associating with others. You're barring other people from associating with you. You're barring other people from entering your neighborhood, your town, your country. In reality,
Why
we
should
already
you
have
not
freedom
have?
of association. If you want to, you can go move anywhere in the country. You can go find a white neighborhood. You can go hang out with them. You already have that right. Nothing's stopping you. What you're asking for is the freedom to legally bar non-whites from living next to you. And that's not freedom. That
No, I'm not.
is
I'm
the
not
opposite of
asking for
freedom.
that. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking for that at all. What I think I'm asking for is the freedom, number one, to disassociate. I don't. I shouldn't be.
Like go live in
I
the
should.
forest? Sure.
No, I shouldn't be compelled to live or associate with people that I don't want to.
Yeah,
Number
you
one.
can
And,
move.
and number two, I think that I should have the freedom to make living in my neighborhood as unattractive a prospect to non-whites as humanly possible,
No,
so
that
that
is
they
not
won't want.
freedom.
Well, I have every right to do with what I want on my property, do I not? Can I not do whatever I want with my property? It's my property. I should
You
have the
can't
freedom.
you can't murder a person with your property.
No,
You
no,
have
I'm
to pay
not. I
taxes on
never
your
said. I
property.
never.
There are
I never.
plenty of
I
restrictions on
never
what you do
said
with your property.
murder. No, but I should be able to put a, let's say a big old burning cross. I don't like the KKK, but for it's a good visual. Let's say I put up a big old burning cross in my front yard, and a big sign on my property that says "whites only," and make my neighborhood as unattractive and unappealing without using, without violence or coercion or anything untoward, but just
Hmm?
making my opinion known. Should I be able to do that on my property?
Well,
Do I
I'm
have
not
that
really
freedom?
familiar with Canadian law. That
No,
might be
but I'm
legally
asking you.
Hold on.
Do you
That
think
might
people
be
should
legally
have that freedom?
permissible. Morally speaking, I suppose you do have a right to do that, not to make it seem it's not moral. You have a right to do it. And I suppose, if anything, you are warning people of color that they probably don't want to live next to you
Right.
anyway,
I don't understand why people move to quote unquote racist areas in the United States and then complain about being the victim of racism.
because
Like,
you're weaker than they are. Because
I don't
you're
think so.
losing. Every year, every decade, you people retreat to smaller and smaller corners of the earth. More and more of the world is taken over by people like me, people who don't
Yeah.
care about race. Those people are the frontiersmen of my ideology. Eventually, you'll
Yeah.
be forced into whatever godforsaken tundra you're going to have to end up needing to live in to avoid black people.
No, because at that point, I do believe that there will be conflict in the future.
Oh,
There will be a race war, and it won't be started by us, but it will be finished by us.
then you'd better start one soon because your kind is
No,
dwindling.
we are already at war, I do
Ah,
believe.
okay. So it's the kind of war where nothing actually happens and you get to feel really proud and puff out your
No,
chest.
no, it's the kind of war where blacks burn down parts of their city, where
That's a
people like
war? Wait,
you.
I thought they were doing that in their own neighborhoods, but now it's a
Well,
war
I
against
could have
white
sworn
people.
last time we talked, you compared that to the United States Revolution.
Yeah,
So,
based.
yeah, so it is a war. By your reckoning,
It's a war
then,
against
well,
racism. Are
no,
you taking the racism side?
absolutely.
Okay, well, they're not anti-white. You're just anti-black. You are the one initiating this.
No, I do believe that to be anti-white is to
Be
enact.
anti-racism is a code word for anti-right. Am I right, my
It will,
fellow?
it will when I can't say things to other white people that might cause them to act and think in their own best interest, that they if I try to
Why are you
convince other
speaking so
white people,
euphemistically? You have the right to say whatever you want to other white people. You have freedom of
and
speech in your country.
not necessarily, no, we don't really have freedom of
You
speech.
do
We
have
have the
freedom of speech. Yes, you
no,
do.
we don't. No,
C-16 did not take away your freedom of speech.
I'm not talking about C-16, but our constitution isn't the be all end all like it is in your country. The government can and does mandate and regulate speech in
Eh.
this country. You have the illusion of it.
So what are you going to say to a fellow white that's going to get you
No,
arrested?
I don't. Today, I'm not sure. Tomorrow, I'm not sure. A year from now, I have no idea, Vosh. But what I was trying to say is that I cannot talk to other white people and try and convince them
Yeah, you can.
to no to think and act in their own self-interest without being called a racist.
Oh, well,
It's
yeah,
race.
because hold on, wait, why are you chafing at that? You're a racist. You're a
Black.
self-admitted, you just said
I
that in a war, you're taking the pro-racism side. Why are you, hold on, freedom of speech means you have a right to proselytize Nazi ideology, and other people have a right to call you racist. What,
For
that's the,
absolute, yeah, for sure. I'm racist by your definition. By my definition, I'm a racialist, and I do believe in a differentiation on a biological and cultural level
right, yes,
between
we know
different
you're a racist. Yeah, so why
blah
can't
blah
people call you
blah.
that?
Because because you can't, because nobody is calling blacks racist for telling other blacks to work and think and live and act in their own self-interest.
Yeah, they do all
Nobody.
the time. Have you ever seen
I've never.
conservative media in America? There is a
I
24/7 hate train against any kind of black like in-group association. We
well
are
you
the last president of the United States literally drafted the 1776 Commission as a response to the 1619 report, which was specifically about reframing race relations at the beginning of America, and that academic paper was blatantly racist and blatantly anti-black as well. The idea that there isn't any like
No, I didn't say
anti-black
anything
sentiment.
anti. You can be. I never said anything about anti-black. I said nobody is accusing blacks. Nobody is saying when one black says to another black, "Hey, man, we need to be in this together." These jive turkey honkies,
Okay,
man.
stop, please. God, we can't handle it. Okay, we need to. Thank you for
But no,
not doing the accent. Okay, you could have put. You gave
hey
it an 8 out
yo,
of 10. You could have
hey
given it a
yo,
10.
hey yo, Tyrone, shit,
Stop,
man. You
I'll boot you. I muted you. We're not doing this. Okay, are we okay now? I can
yeah,
tolerate you embarrassing yourself on my show for a little while, but we can't tolerate the theatrics,
oh,
okay?
we can't tolerate the minstrel show, Vosh. That's a shame.
Yeah, it's really cringy, and I'm just trying to save people the hospital bill for the cancer they would develop from hearing you give
Oh
your best
no,
minstrel
you
show
would
impression.
have to give me the opportunity to give your fans cancer. Nothing would make me happier
Sorry,
than the
this is
thought
what
of
negative
them
freedom
withering
means.
away
All
in a
right,
hospital bed. Nobody says when Jamal says to Tyrone, "Hey, buddy, we need to work together to make black stuff really good and stuff. We should think about black issues, Tyrone. I'm doing my best, like
you
stereotypical
doing
black guy
okay
now."
over there?
Yeah. Nobody says to Tyrone and Jamarcus that you guys.
We'll just wait it out. It's okay, we're waiting it out. Are we done now? Are we good? Because wait, why am I muting you? Because I can hear you putting shoe shine on your face. Okay, can we chill out with that? Okay. Ooh, good thing I had you muted for that one. Nice try, buddy. Whew. Stay mad. Okay, he's no longer muted, but the call is ended. So kind of the same thing there. He called me the K slur lover towards the end there. This is, again, keep in mind, the Nazi that I just talked to, this is one of the people who's like, I'm not a hateful, racial hater kind of guy, you know? I'm just academically interested in the biological diversity amongst humans. But, you know, once you get mad, there we go. We're back to Twitch chat, I guess. That's what, that's your gamer moments, I guess. Truly the purview of white people. Just a genetic deficiency on the part of white people, those gamer moments, you know? All right, well, hey there, Twitch chat. Howdy, howdy. All right, final thoughts on that. It was just good to beat him up for another 90 minutes, I guess. But once he gets to the point where he's like clearly just angrily minstrel showing, there's not really much of a point in talking to him anymore. At that point, he's just like jerking off with one hand and, you know, like using his other hand to Google search YouTube videos of AAVE so he can better imitate it for the for the purpose of making fun of it. Yeah. Holy shit, never say Mozart was broke again. Was I thinking of Beethoven? I'm not a music guy. Hold on. Mozart, Baroque. Was I thinking of Beethoven, not Mozart? Mozart's mastery of the Baroque style allowed him to adopt and modulate ornate contrapunctual forms. The fuck are you talking about? Yeah, he was Baroque. Asshole? I'm not a music guy. I should really study up more on that stuff because Destiny knowing music shit when talking with Eric Stryker was super, super helpful to him. Um, so I feel like it's important to get at that. Um, definitely some kind of preference. Will there be a round 3? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Beethoven predates Mozart. Yeah, I know that much. Yeah. Anyway, I don't care about the music technicalities. But anyway, all of that aside, what do we get from that conversation? I think it was just fun to beat him up for a little while. Um, he's not especially bright. I think I'm happy with the JQ stuff there. I think it's really, really obvious when you dig into it just a little bit how fucking arbitrary all of the JQ shit posting is. Like, all you have to do is think about it for just a little bit. It's almost like an Occam's razor type situation, you know, where JQ, Jewish question. It's an Occam's razor type situation where, like, here are the options available to you. America supports Israel because evangelicals have a clearly stated interest in allowing Jews to maintain control over that region, and also America wants a military base. Or, actually, it's thousands of years of Goyim hatred. It's just like, it goes on and on and on, but yeah, it's all really, really explainable. The only reason the whole JQ bullshit actually sounds compelling is because usually the ones of them that are smart enough to memorize a couple of specific names, figures, dates, events, can paint a picture that's misrepresentative of the whole. But that guy wasn't even smart enough to do that, so there wasn't even really a point. You know, it's just, what are you gonna do? Ironically, the more you talk to him, the more damage he'll do to himself. Yeah, oh god, I wish I could share this with you guys because this would technically be, I think, doxing, so I'm not going to. But somebody apparently knew this guy. He has a Facebook account that he keeps privated because it's just full of like hateful bullshit. And anyway, he shared a couple of screenshots from that Facebook profile, and it has his name and stuff. I'm not sharing any of it. I'm not baiting or anything. But as far as I can tell, like assuming this is it, and it seems like it was, this guy was nonstop posting insane shit. Like, fuck black people can go and die, fuck Jewish people. The one thing I saw, I remember it was a meme about the Christchurch shooting, 50 people dying in New Zealand, and he was like, I don't feel any sympathy for these degenerates coming over here and taking over our country and that sort of thing. Like, dude's a full-on absolute fucking nutter, you know? But that's how they all are. Remember that. At the end of the day, there are no composed, intelligent Nazis, you know? Richard Spencer was able to keep it going for a little while, but then Milo Yiannopoulos dropped that leaked audio of him after Charlottesville, and Richard Spencer sounded like just as much of a fucking lunatic as the rest of them. This is my people. I would have these octoroons. Like, just as much of a lunatic, you know?